Homecoming weekend, a time for joyous return and cherished traditions, casts a unique glow over the tranquil town of Havenwood. For Sarah Jenkins, a spirited 20-year-old at Crestwood University, this particular autumn offered a vibrant tableau of laughter, friendship, and the promise of a future as open as the highway. Her beloved 1970 Mustang convertible, a tangible link to a cherished past and a symbol of her soaring independence, gleamed under the stadium lights, a silent testament to a life brimming with potential. But sometimes the most profound peace can be the most fragile, concealing a darkness that waits patiently in the wings. Amidst the celebratory hum, an unseen thread began to fray in insidious force, preparing to sever a lifeline. This was not a story of joyous return, but of a sudden, inexplicable departure, a void that would swallow hope whole. The echoes of celebration would soon give way to the silence of a mother's desperate calls, each unanswered ring intensifying the growing dread. How could a future so brightly imagined, a life so deeply felt, simply disappear from the face of the earth, leaving only the chilling enigma of an empty parking space and a mother's escalating desperate pleas? The crisp autumn air of Havenwood, heavy with the scent of wood smoke and fallen leaves, buzzed with an infectious energy. Homecoming weekend at Crestwood University was more than a tradition. It was an annual pilgrimage for alumni, their joyous reunions blending seamlessly with the electric current of student life. At the vibrant heart of this spectacle stood Sarah Jenkins, a 20-year-old junior whose presence seemed to amplify the light in any gathering. Her laughter, free and resonant, often danced through the ancient campus quads, a testament to an optimism that felt boundless. Sarah was not merely a diligent student. She was the nucleus of her tight-knit social circle, a compassionate volunteer at the local animal shelter, and the cherished only child of Eleanor Jenkins. For Eleanor, Sarah was a profound source of pride, embodying hope and promise. Central to Sarah's identity was her meticulously restored 1970 metallic blue Mustang convertible. More than just a car, it was a tangible link to her late father, a treasured inheritance that spoke of freedom, enduring spirit, and the wide-open future she embraced. Its gleaming chrome, parked beneath the stadium lights for the evening's festivities, was a familiar flash of brilliance, routinely drawing admiring glances. Friday night's bonfire, a colossal beacon of swirling orange flames against the encroaching twilight, officially ignited the weekend's revelry. A constellation of friends, their faces painted by the dancing light, gravitated towards Sarah. Their voices, a jubilant chorus, swelled with shared anticipation. Sarah, a mug of warm cider warming her hands, her eyes alight with unadulterated happiness, engaged in animated conversation with Chloe Hayes, her closest confidante and roommate, charting out carefree plans for the morrow, their path ahead seemingly clear and unburdened. Yet beneath this tableau of youthful celebration, a subtle, almost imperceptible tremor began to unsettle the fabric of everyday life. As the last embers of the bonfire surrendered to the cool night, and Sarah offered her goodbyes before walking towards her distinctive blue car, she remained blissfully unaware. This radiant moment, this snapshot of pure, unblemished joy, would be its last vivid flash. The iconic Mustang, a personal emblem of liberty, was poised to become an unwilling witness in a tale far grimmer than any she could have conceived. The journey she was about to embark upon would not lead her home, but instead into an unforeseen darkness, severing the bright thread of a promising existence from a world that adored her. Saturday morning dawned crisp and bright, a sharp counterpoint to the boisterous warmth of the previous night. For Eleanor Jenkins, a profound stillness permeated her home. Sarah, habitually prompt, had not delivered her customary "Good morning, Mom," a cheerful call that usually punctuated Eleanor's quiet starts. The silence stretched an unfamiliar weight, settling upon the house. Eleanor's hand instinctively reached for her phone, a small knot of worry tightening in her stomach. She dialed Sarah's number, the ringing tone echoing hollowly through the quiet kitchen. It chimed once, twice, then abruptly shunted to voicemail. "You've reached Sarah. Leave a message." Sarah's recorded voice, so vibrant and full of life, offered no comfort, only an intensifying prickle of unease. Eleanor tried again, then a third time, each attempt answered by the same automated cheer. This was entirely uncharacteristic. Sarah was meticulous, always checking in, especially after a late night out. The burgeoning disquiet propelled Eleanor to call Chloe Hayes, Sarah's closest friend and roommate. Chloe's voice, usually a cascade of youthful energy, now held a note of escalating concern. "Mrs. Jenkins, no, Sarah never came back last night. Her bed hasn't been slept in. I thought maybe she just stayed with another friend after the bonfire." The words hung heavy, transmuting Eleanor's private anxiety into a shared, spreading fear. Then Chloe delivered the next unsettling revelation, her voice trembling, "And the Mustang, it's not in its spot. Her car isn't here." The news struck Eleanor with visceral impact. The metallic blue Mustang, Sarah's pride, her father's legacy, was an integral piece of her daughter's identity. Its absence wasn't merely a missing vehicle. It was a gaping, ominous hole in the tapestry of their lives. Eleanor's heart began to thud against her ribs, a frantic, insistent beat. Sarah would never abandon that car. She cherished it, poured herself into its upkeep. It was a symbol of her very essence. Eleanor's mounting panic ignited her into a flurry of action. She embarked on a rapid-fire series of calls to Sarah's other friends, her voice tight with barely suppressed terror. "Did you see Sarah leave the bonfire? Did she mention where she was going?" Each conversation, a desperate attempt to reconstruct Sarah's final known movements, yielded the same disquieting fragments. Sarah had been at the bonfire. She departed alone, her stated intention to drive directly to her apartment. No detours, no impromptu plans, no goodbyes, hinting at an overnight stay elsewhere. Every answer, far from bringing clarity, only plunged them deeper into an unfathomable emptiness, confirming Sarah's unexplained disappearance without trace or customary communication. The uncharacteristic silence, the vacant parking space where the Mustang should have been, the increasingly desperate unanswered rings, these were no longer just minor inconveniences. They were dire omens. Eleanor clutched her phone, her knuckles stark white, her gaze fixed on the unseen horror unfolding. A mother's intuition, sharp and merciless, screamed that this was no simple misunderstanding, no spontaneous youthful adventure. This was something far more insidious, a cold grip of dread, seizing her heart, drawing her into a chilling unknown. The quiet morning had fractured, replaced by the deafening sound of her daughter's absence. Eleanor knew with a certainty that froze her to the core that she had to turn to the authorities, however inadequate their initial procedural response might feel against the overwhelming tide of her terror. Eleanor's frantic calls, each one a desperate gasp against a suffocating silence, found their inevitable endpoint with the Havenwood Police Department. Her voice, hoarse from fear and exhaustion, carried an urgency that pierced through routine inquiries. For her, a mother whose world had irrevocably tilted, this was not a report, but a desperate plea for an intervention she was powerless to initiate. The methodical questions from the dispatch operator, while necessary, felt like an icy current against the searing heat of her mounting terror. The hours that followed blurred into an agonizing continuum of waiting. Eventually, Eleanor sat hunched across a scarred laminate table in the station facing Detective Miles Corbin. His face etched with the subtle lines of 2 decades spent navigating human darkness, held a practiced calm. Beside him, Detective Isabella Reyes, sharp-eyed and efficient, logged initial details onto a stark digital form. Corbin's gaze, deep-set and weary, registered the raw, almost primal fear emanating from Eleanor, a signal he knew well. "Mrs. Jenkins, could you recount everything once more from the moment you realized Sarah was missing?" Corbin's voice was a low, steady current designed to elicit information, yet subtly imbued with the authority of command. Eleanor, her hands trembling as she clutched a laminated photograph of Sarah's beaming face, nodded. "Sarah Jenkins, 20 years old, junior at Crestwood University. Last seen at the homecoming bonfire last night, around 11, maybe 11:30. She was supposed to drive back to her apartment." A catch in her throat made her pause. "Her roommate, Chloe, says she never came home. Her bed wasn't slept in. And her car, the Mustang, it's gone." The final words were almost a whisper laden with a terror too vast to articulate. Detective Reyes, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, interjected with a crisp procedural query. "Vehicle description. Please, mom, make, model, year, color, any distinguishing features." "A 1970 Mustang convertible." Eleanor responded, a flicker of maternal pride momentarily piercing her distress. "Metallic blue, original paint. My late husband restored it. It's unmistakable." She slid the photograph across the table, not just a portrait of her daughter, but one where the distinctive blue car gleamed proudly in the background. Corbin took the photo, his eyes scanning it before meeting Rice's. "Missing adult female, 20. Last seen Crestwood University bonfire, believed driving vintage Mustang. No signs of forced entry at apartment, no initial reports of foul play. Distinctive vehicle." Reyes's summary, delivered with methodical precision, sounded routine to an outsider. Yet Corbin felt the familiar low thrum of unease that often prefaced something far more complex. Homecoming weekends typically yielded minor incidents, but a responsible student vanishing with a unique, high-profile car was a clear deviation from the predictable. "She wouldn't just leave," Detective Eleanor insisted, her voice gaining a desperate, unyielding strength. Her red-rimmed eyes locked onto Corbin's, a fierce maternal conviction radiating from her. "Not without a word. Not without her phone. Not without her car. Something is deeply wrong. I know it." Her certainty, stark and absolute, sliced through the methodical calm of the police station, signaling to the seasoned investigators that this was no ordinary missing persons report. This was an urgent alarm blaring in the core of a mother's heart, demanding immediate and unwavering attention. Cold, deliberate gears of official action were at last truly beginning to turn. The investigation's immediate and paramount focus gravitated towards the missing vehicle. Sarah's Mustang, a distinctive 1970 metallic blue convertible, was no item that simply vanished without trace. It was a celebrated classic, an unmistakable eye-catcher far too unique to merely fade into the background of highway traffic. Detectives Corbin and Rise, operating with synchronized efficiency, launched a systematic search. Uniformed patrol units fanned out across Havenwood, their radios alive with the detailed description of the missing car. A comprehensive BOLO be on the lookout alert was rapidly disseminated, flashing across state lines, meticulously detailing every specific feature of the coveted vintage automobile. The first tangible steps involved a thorough canvass of Sarah's apartment complex and the labyrinthine network of surrounding thoroughfares. Corbin, his gaze sweeping over the conspicuously vacant parking space, where the Mustang should have been, articulated the grim prognosis. The car's a major red flag, Rise. A young woman like Sarah, driving a vehicle that distinctive, it's not just her transportation. It's a magnet for trouble. They interviewed neighbors, scrutinized convenience store clerks, approached anyone who might have glimpsed the unmistakable car or Sarah herself, driving it late Friday night. Every single inquiry, however, disappointingly, returned a blank slate. The digital landscape quickly became their primary hunting ground. Requests for surveillance footage poured in from every conceivable source: local gas stations, traffic cameras, strategically positioned at major intersections, private security systems, from businesses flanking Sarah's presumed route home. Hours bled into a relentless, monotonous grind, a Sisyphean effort of sifting through grainy images, watching the mundane ebb and flow of everyday life, all in pursuit of a single metallic blue phantom. A fragile hope lingered that they might spot Sarah herself, perhaps headed for an unexpected destination, a spontaneous getaway that could explain her bewildering silence. But as the clock pushed past the crucial 24-hour mark, then into the second full day, each frame reviewed yielded nothing but empty roads and indistinguishable vehicles. It was as if the sleek metallic blue Mustang and the vibrant young woman behind its wheel had been utterly consumed by the night itself. The search radius broadened exponentially, stretching beyond Havenwood's familiar boundaries into neighboring towns and along major highway arteries. State police units were brought into the burgeoning effort, adding their considerable resources to the growing urgency. Commander Davies, overseeing the rapidly expanding coordination, voiced the mounting frustration. "We're chasing a ghost," he stated, his voice tight. "A highly visible ghost that should not be this difficult to track." The sheer distinctiveness of the car, initially seen as an asset, now felt like a cruel twist of irony. A vehicle so unique should have been cited, reported somewhere. Its prolonged absence, utterly devoid of any credible witness accounts, intensified the sinister implications. For Eleanor, the days stretched into an eternity, each police update delivering a fresh wave of crushing despair. The car, once a symbol of her daughter's vivacity and independence, now loomed as an insurmountable barrier to the truth. She clung to the faint hope that Sarah was merely stranded, perhaps disoriented, but the methodical yet fruitless search for the Mustang systematically extinguished those fragile embers. The investigators, their expressions hardening with each passing hour, now viewed the vehicle's disappearance as far more than a simple theft. It had become a deliberate, cunning maneuver, an orchestrated piece of a puzzle designed not just to hide a car, but to conceal a much darker truth about the fate of Sarah Jenkins. The phantom on the open road was not simply lost. It had been actively, intentionally made to vanish. With the frustrating void of the missing Mustang continuing to confound investigators, detectives Corbin and Rise shifted their focus directly onto Crestwood University. They stepped into the world Sarah Jenkins had called home, a place once brimming with youthful effervescence, now subtly muted by an invisible pall. The campus, typically a dynamic hub of energy, seemed to draw a collective breath, hushed by the encroaching shadow of uncertainty. Their mission was clear: meticulously unravel Sarah's social tapestry, reconstruct her final hours, and uncover any hidden currents lurking beneath the polished surface of her popular life. Their first stop was the off-campus apartment shared by Sarah and Chloe Hayes. Chloe, her eyes still red and swollen from an ocean of tears, received them in the quiet living room. She spoke of Sarah with a heartbreaking blend of love and disbelief, describing her boundless energy, her innate kindness, and an unwavering loyalty that made her a steadfast friend. Sarah was always so positive, Chloe murmured, her voice raw with grief, her gaze lingering on Sarah's impeccably tidy side of the room. She saw the best in everyone, sometimes even when it wasn't there. As the detectives expanded their interviews to Sarah's wider circle study partners, Club Bonfire attendees, a consistent, glowing portrait emerged. Sarah was universally liked, admired, and seemingly devoid of enemies. Yet, as Corbin and Reyes gently probed beneath the veneer of heartfelt eulogies, subtle dissonances began to surface. Young adults, initially protective of their friend's memory, slowly, almost reluctantly, allowed glimpses into the more complex, sometimes uncomfortable intricacies of campus social dynamics. It was during a conversation with Liam O'Connell, a quiet English major and a casual acquaintance, that the first significant ripple emerged. Liam shifted uncomfortably, avoiding direct eye contact as he spoke. Sarah was great, truly. Everyone thought so. But there was this guy, Ryan Miller. From a couple of classes last year. He was kind of intense. Liam hesitated, his brow furrowed with a troubled memory. He had a thing for Sarah, but she definitely wasn't interested. He didn't handle rejection well, kept showing up at her usual spots, sending her constant messages. It got a bit much. The words, though, delivered tentatively, carried a distinct undercurrent of disquiet. When Chloe was later gently pressed on this, she confirmed Liam's uneasy recollection. Ryan Miller was in a few of Sarah's classes. He was charming, at first, I guess, but then he got really pushy. Sarah just wanted to keep it platonic, but he just wouldn't get the hint. She started consciously avoiding certain parts of campus just to sidestep him. A faint tremor ran through Chloe's voice as she recounted these details. It wasn't a huge drama, just persistently awkward. Other hushed accounts surfaced a minor tiff Sarah had with a former sorority sister. Weeks prior, quickly smoothed over, but recalled with surprising clarity. A late-night phone call Sarah had taken in secret, appearing visibly agitated afterwards, only to dismiss her roommate's concern with a vague, "It's nothing, really." Each fragment of information, seemingly minor on its own, became a fragile thread, gradually weaving into a growing web of concern. The campus, once a stage for unbridled, youthful optimism, now seemed to cloak itself in unspoken secrets, lurking in the hushed corridors of academic buildings and the quiet shade of old courtyards. Corbin and Reyes meticulously recorded every name, every nuanced observation. The subtle shifts in students' posture, the hesitant pauses before speaking the carefully chosen words, these were all telling. They understood that beneath the surface of a popular student's vibrant life, unseen currents often flowed and sometimes those currents could pull someone into an unexpected, profound danger. Ryan Miller's name specifically now resonated with a distinct resonance prominently highlighted on their rapidly expanding list of individuals requiring further scrutiny. The initial untangling of Sarah's social network had finally yielded its first tangible and deeply unsettling lead. The breakthrough came not from the meticulous analysis of digital footprints or the exhaustive canvassing of urban streets, but from an unexpected silent discovery deep within the wilderness. A local hiker, traversing a less traveled path through the dense, unforgiving woods of Blackwood State Park, stumbled upon an anomaly. 15 miles from the vibrant pulse of Crestwood University, beneath a thick, sheltering canopy of ancient pines, a glint of metallic blue caught their eye. It was Sarah's Mustang, not expertly hidden, but left conspicuously abandoned on a rarely used overgrown service road, its once gleaming paint now dulled by layers of forest damp and accumulated needles. The sight sent a chilling jolt of grim realization through the Havenwood Police Department. Detective Reiser face a mask of resolute focus as she surveyed the scene voiced the stark assessment. "This isn't a simple abandonment," she stated, her voice tight, the words echoing in the hushed clearing. "This is deliberate. Someone wanted this car found, but not without effort, and far from the familiar haunts of campus." The vehicle's doors were unlocked, the interior appearing surprisingly neat, almost sterile, a strange contradiction to its clandestine location. The keys, however, were conspicuously absent. As forensics technicians meticulously processed the car, the forest floor around them crackling with their movements, their initial examination yielded a crucial piece of evidence. On the passenger floorboard, nestled almost imperceptibly between the plush carpeting and the transmission hump, lay a single, small silver earring. It was an antique piece, intricately etched with a subtle floral pattern, a unique heirloom Sarah was known to wear constantly. Its dislodged presence there, detached from her ear, was more than merely a misplaced item. It was a stark, irrefutable indication of a struggle, a violent interruption to Sarah's final moments within the vehicle. The absence of any visible bloodstains within the vehicle added another layer of chilling complexity. It suggested that while a physical confrontation had occurred, it might have been contained, or Sarah could have been removed from the car swiftly before any significant injury could lead to a detectable loss of blood. The scene, through its profound stillness and a few telltale clues, painted a disturbing picture, confirming the investigators' darkest fears. This was unequivocally no longer a missing person case. The discovery of the abandoned Mustang, coupled with the jarring evidence found within, irrevocably propelled the inquiry into a full-blown homicide investigation. For Eleanor Jenkins, the news of the car's discovery brought not relief, but a crushing wave of finality. The last fragile tendrils of hope that Sarah might simply be lost or in trouble dissolved into a terrifying void of despair. The metallic blue Mustang, once a vibrant emblem of her daughter's life, now stood as a cold, silent monument to her absence, a chilling shell in a silent wilderness. The investigators, their expressions hardening with a steely, unified resolve, understood that the depths of Blackwood State Park now held not just the car, but the beginning of the grim truth. The long-sought vehicle had been found, but it offered only a haunting, somber echo of the vibrant life it once carried. The discovery of Sarah's Mustang, devoid of its owner, yet undeniably bearing the marks of a struggle, irrevocably altered the entire trajectory of the investigation. What had begun as a frantic search for a missing person and her vehicle transformed with chilling finality into a full-blown homicide inquiry. Commander Davies, his face grim, etched with the weight of this new stark reality, addressed the assembled investigative team in the fluorescent-lit briefing room. "We're past missing persons," he stated, his voice low, but firm, resonating with an undeniable gravity. "Our mandate has changed. We are now looking for a killer." Every procedural facet of the case intensified the urgency palpable. The metallic blue Mustang, now a mobile crime scene itself, was meticulously transported to the forensic lab. Technicians clad in sterile suits swarmed the vehicle, processing it, inch by painstaking inch, their movements precise and deliberate. They were sifting for any infinitesimal detail, faint fingerprints on the steering wheel that did not belong to Sarah, trace fibers clinging to the passenger seat, an almost imperceptible scuff mark along the driver's side doorframe. Each potential piece of evidence, no matter how minute, held the potential to whisper the dark secrets from the night Sarah vanished. Simultaneously, the ground search for Sarah herself expanded dramatically. From the Mustang's immediate vicinity, the hunt fanned out into the vast, unforgiving expanse of Blackwood State Park. Line after line of officers, their faces grim and set with determination, systematically combed through dense brush, navigated treacherous ravines, and scoured the undergrowth. Their movements were methodical, their purpose unwavering. K-9 units, their keen senses deployed, joined the grim procession, their occasional barks cutting through the oppressive silence of the ancient forest. The fragile hope of finding Sarah alive, a flickering ember just hours before, was rapidly dimming, replaced by the grim imperative of locating her remains. For Eleanor Jenkins, the notification of the Mustang's discovery, coupled with its stark implications, delivered a devastating blow. The last fragile tendrils of hope, which she had so desperately clung to, irrevocably snapped. She collapsed into Chloe's arms, her body racked with a profound guttural grief that echoed a bottomless abyss of despair. The professional detachment of the detectives, an inherent part of their roles, now hardened into an unyielding resolve. Their empathy for Eleanor's raw suffering fueled their determination. They were driven by the undeniable truth that a vibrant young woman had been stolen, leaving behind only silence, a stark blue car, and a single antique earring as her poignant testament. The investigation had moved beyond uncertainty. The somber reality had taken an unyielding hold, defining every action, every search, every question from that moment forward. The hunt was no longer merely for a person, but for the elusive, unforgiving pursuit of justice. The meticulous forensic analysis of Sarah's Mustang began to yield a disturbing image. Among the painstakingly collected trace evidence from the vehicle's interior, a crucial detail emerged: a set of faint, yet irrefutably identifiable fingerprints on the steering wheel that did not belong to Sarah. When these prints were processed through the state database, a match materialized on Detective Rice's screen. The name that appeared was unsettlingly familiar: Ryan Miller, the former classmate whose unwelcome attentions had surfaced in campus interviews. Detective Corbin, reviewing Ryan's police file, noted a concerning pattern. It detailed previous instances of harassment, specifically targeting young women who had rebuffed his romantic pursuits. The subtle red flags that had once been mere whispers on campus now unfurled into undeniable warnings. Ryan Miller, a 21-year-old student, was subsequently brought in for questioning. His initial demeanor was disarmingly cooperative, even radiating a casual charm, an expertly constructed air of untroubled innocence. He presented a concise, seemingly impregnable alibi. He had been out of town all weekend visiting family 3 states away, complete with hotel receipts and gas station logs, ostensibly corroborating his movements. "I barely knew Sarah," Detective Ryan asserted, a practiced sincerity etched into his expression. He leaned back in the interrogation chair, his posture almost lazily relaxed. "We shared a couple of classes last year, but that was the extent of it. We weren't close." He feigned complete ignorance of her disappearance, even managing a mild expression of surprise when informed of the Mustang's discovery. His casual dismissal of Sarah, however, grated against the collective memory of her friends, who had detailed his persistent, unwanted overtures. Corbin, a seasoned observer of human duplicity, saw through the subtle artifice of Ryan's easy smile. Ryan's methodical and precise presented the first tangible piece of physical evidence. "Mr. Miller, your fingerprints were recovered from the steering wheel of Sarah Jenkins's car, found abandoned in Blackwood State Park. How do you account for that?" Ryan's calm facade visibly fractured, a fleeting shadow betraying his composure. He swiftly reasserted control. "Oh, that. Right, I remember now. I saw her briefly after the bonfire. She was having trouble with her car, said it wouldn't start. I offered to help, gave the steering wheel a tug, tried to rock it. But it was no use. I distinctly told her I had to leave for my family trip." He delivered the explanation smoothly, a seemingly plausible narrative that in isolation might have passed without question. But the detectives were not easily swayed by such carefully engineered tales. They had witnessed countless such constructs crumble under the weight of truth. The fingerprints, while not conclusive proof of a violent struggle, undeniably placed him inside the vehicle, anchoring him to a crime scene far from his purported alibi. The motive, initially a murky suggestion from campus gossip, began to solidify a potent cocktail of possessive infatuation and simmering resentment, now aggravated by his transparent attempt at deception. The strategic game of cat and mouse had commenced, Ryan projecting an image of unblemished sincerity, while the detectives methodically prepared to peel back the layers of his elaborate deceit. The shadow of suspicion, once a vague outline, now sharply defined a familiar face in the crosshairs. The detectives, wholly unimpressed by Ryan Miller's polished performance and his seemingly unassailable alibi, immediately intensified their efforts. Corbin and Reyes, their professional skepticism, honed by years of navigating deceit, initiated an exhaustive forensic examination of every claim Ryan had presented. His narrative of an out-of-state family visit, buttressed by hotel receipts and gas logs, was now subjected to a merciless scrutiny designed to expose the smallest flaw. Detective Reyes, with her piercing analytical mind, spearheaded the deep dive into Ryan's digital footprint. She began by cross-referencing the timestamps on his gas receipts against the operational records of the listed stations. A critical discrepancy instantly materialized. Several receipts corresponded to pumps known to be non-operational on the dates Ryan cited, or for stations geographically impossible to reach within his claimed travel times without improbable detours. "He's fabricating parts of his journey," Ray stated flatly to Corbin, her finger tapping a screen displaying a convoluted map overlay. "These aren't simple errors. They are deliberate misdirections." Further, the digital forensics team successfully extracted critical data from Ryan's cell phone. The findings were damning. While his general phone activity aligned with his stated location, 3 states away, a crucial window emerged. In the early hours of Saturday morning, mere hours after Sarah was last seen at the bonfire, Ryan's phone had pinged off a cell tower just 5 miles from Havenwood. This localized activity was immediately followed by a sudden geographically impossible jump in cell tower data, placing him hundreds of miles away in a matter of minutes, a digital anomaly that unequivocally suggested manipulation, likely through a burner phone or a strategically placed device, intended to construct a false trail. His whereabouts were digitally engineered. Rise confirmed, her voice devoid of emotion, yet resonating with absolute certainty. His phone was here, with Sarah. The motive, initially a disquieting whisper, gleaned from campus interviews, now solidified into a stark, undeniable truth. Reinvestigating Ryan's past, the detectives unearthed a disturbing history of obsessive behavior towards women who had rejected his advances. Reports from previous universities detailed hushed complaints that, while never escalating to formal charges, painted a consistent portrait. Ryan Miller possessed a profound inability to accept rejection gracefully. He would escalate his attention, growing increasingly persistent, sometimes even resorting to veiled threats whenever a woman attempted to establish a clear boundary. Sarah had indeed rebuffed his advances months prior, a fact he had vehemently downplayed in his initial interview, dismissing their interactions as utterly trivial. The disparate pieces of the puzzle began to click into place with unsettling clarity. Ryan's meticulously constructed alibi, crafted to establish geographical distance, was now thoroughly riddled with irrefutable holes. His casual explanation for his fingerprints on the Mustang's steering wheel, helping with the car, dissolved into a transparent, self-serving fabrication. The chilling realization settled upon the investigators: the deliberate abandonment of Sarah's Mustang deep within Blackwood State Park was no random act. It was a calculated maneuver, an engineered attempt to mislead law enforcement, to suggest a random act of car theft or violence far from the campus, while Ryan meticulously fabricated an illusion of distance. He was not merely a suspect. He was revealed as the cunning architect of an elaborate deception. The intricate web of lies he had so painstakingly spun was now unraveling thread by painful thread, exposing the dark concealed truth. The path forward was undeniably clear. It was time to confront Ryan Miller with the full weight of the undeniable evidence. The second interrogation of Ryan Miller transcended a mere re-examination. It was a meticulously orchestrated psychological assault designed to systematically dismantle his carefully constructed fiction. He sat at the cold, scarred table in the interrogation room, the stark fluorescent lights cruelly illuminating every bead of sweat that began to form on his brow. He attempted to project a renewed air of casual indifference, but the veneer was thin. Detectives Corbin and Rise had returned armed with an unassailable arsenal of evidence, their combined demeanor a formidable blend of unyielding resolve and strategic calculation. Corbin initiated the exchange, his voice calm, almost sympathetic, yet underscored by an unshakable authority. "Ryan, we're past discussing what you claim happened that night. We're here to talk about what we know happened." He leaned forward slightly, his gaze steady, piercing through Ryan's manufactured calm. "Your alibi has collapsed. We know definitively that you were in Havenwood that night. You were not 3 states away visiting family." Ryan's practiced smile faltered, a flicker of raw irritation momentarily marring his features. "I've already stated my position, Detective. I offered Sarah help with her car. Then I departed. My receipts bear witness to my movements." He attempted to reassert his composure, his jaw clenching almost imperceptibly. Detective Rice, precise and methodical, interjected her voice, cutting through his pretense with scalpel-like precision. She slid a tablet across the table, its screen displaying the convoluted map overlay. Your receipts, Ryan, are riddled with fatal inconsistencies. These gas stations confirmed closed. These timestamps, geographically impossible, given the distances you claim to have traveled. She tapped the screen, highlighting a glaring discrepancy that defied any rational explanation. And then there's this. Your cell phone, Ryan. It pinged off a tower less than 5 miles from Crestwood University at 1:17 a.m. Saturday morning. Hours after the bonfire. Hours after you swear you were already halfway across the state. Ryan's face visibly blanched the color, draining from his skin. His easy posture dissolved his body, stiffening, his eyes darting frantically between the two detectives. My phone, that's absolutely impossible. I must have left it charging somewhere. Or perhaps it was a technical glitch. These things happen with technology. His voice, no longer smooth, now carried a desperate, burgeoning note of defensiveness. Corbin pressed his tone, shifting, becoming more direct, less accommodating. No glitches, Ryan. We possess the complete data. We also have records of your other phone, the one you weren't using that night, registering activity hundreds of miles away concurrently. This wasn't an accident. This was a meticulously calculated deception. You fabricated an entire trip to obscure your actual movements. He paused, allowing the full weight of the accusation to settle. We're also aware of your history, Ryan, difficulties with women who didn't reciprocate your interest. Sarah Jenkins, we know, was one of them, wasn't she? The mention of his past triggered a volatile, almost instantaneous reaction. Ryan slammed his hand onto the table, the cheap plastic groaning under the impact. This is absurd. I liked Sarah, of course, but she wasn't interested. That's the end of it. I didn't do anything. His carefully constructed calm had utterly shattered, revealing a flash of raw, agitated fury. Bryce leaned in, her voice now, cold, unwavering pronouncement of fact. Your fingerprints were found on Sarah's steering wheel. Her antique earring was on the passenger floorboard. The same earring her friends confirmed she never took off. Explain the earring, Ryan. Was that part of you helping with the car too? His defenses disintegrated completely. Ryan squeezed his eyes shut, a strangled, guttural sound escaping his throat. The elaborate lies, the casual denials, the feigned innocence, all evaporated under the relentless, crushing pressure of undeniable facts. He began to stammer, a torrent of fragmented, self-serving excuses spilling out. She laughed at me. She told me she had other plans. I just wanted to talk. We argued. In the car. She got upset. She scratched me. I just reacted. He buried his face in his hands, his body beginning to tremble uncontrollably, every nerve ending screaming. Corbin, sensing the precise moment of his breaking point, subtly softened his tone, offering a grim, narrow path to the truth. Ryan, where is Sarah? Help us bring her home to her mother. Tell us honestly what truly happened after you left that bonfire, after you drove her car into Blackwood State Park. Was it an accident, a tragic mistake, or something far more premeditated? Through a torrent of gasps and sobs, a confession raw and torn from profound desperation finally materialized. Ryan, his voice barely audible, choked out the chilling details. He revealed how the argument had violently escalated, how he had physically overpowered Sarah inside the Mustang, brutally silencing her. He then, in a terrifying act of calculated desperation, drove her deeper into the dense, silent expanse of Blackwood State Park, beyond the abandoned car, to a secluded, overgrown hollow he knew from his occasional hikes. I buried her, he whimpered, his head still buried in his hands. Near the old ranger's cabin, by the fallen oak. The words, though horrifying beyond measure, brought a grim, profound clarity. The central mystery of Sarah Jenkins's disappearance, the question that had plagued Eleanor and consumed the entire Havenwood Police Department, was at last tragically answered. The hunt for Sarah was over. The relentless pursuit of justice, however, was just beginning. The trial of Ryan Miller riveted the quiet community of Havenwood, transforming its modest courthouse into a crucible where collective grief met the unyielding demand for accountability. Eleanor Jenkins, her face a stark tableau of profound sorrow, yet her posture emanating an indomitable resolve, was an unwavering presence in the front row each day. Her gaze, fiercely fixed on Ryan Miller, never faltered, a silent, searing testament to the life ripped from her. The prosecution painstakingly constructed its case, laying out a precise chronological narrative for the jury. Forensic experts presented the irrefutable evidence: Ryan Miller's fingerprints, lifted from the Mustang steering wheel, the microscopic trace fibers discovered within the vehicle's interior, and Sarah's unique antique earring, a poignant, silent witness to the violent confrontation. Digital forensics specialists then systematically exposed the intricate dismantling of Ryan's fabricated alibi, laying bare the impossible cell phone pings and the strategically misleading gas receipts. Detectives Corbin and Rise, testifying with professional clarity, recounted the rigorous investigation that had methodically unraveled Ryan's tangled web of lies, ultimately leading them to Sarah's shallow grave in Blackwood State Park. The jury, presented with a compelling narrative forged from scientific precision and undeniable facts, absorbed every detail. Ryan's defense team, in turn, mounted an attempt to discredit his confession, portraying it as the product of coercive interrogation tactics. They argued his actions were an unfortunate, tragic accident, a moment of impulsive reaction rather than calculated malice. Ryan himself, frequently appearing sullen and defiantly remote, offered a performance of remorse that felt profoundly disingenuous, steeped more in self-pity than in genuine contrition. He clung to a veneer of bewildered victimhood, even as the crushing weight of evidence bore down upon him. The days of testimony elongated into weeks, each moment fraught with escalating tension. Finally, after prolonged deliberations, the jury returned. A profound hush descended upon the courtroom, broken only by Eleanor's ragged breathing and the soft click of the courtroom door. The foreman rose, his voice solemn, unwavering. The verdict, delivered with a stark, resonant pronouncement, sliced through the stifling silence: guilty. A collective, almost imperceptible exhalation swept through the gallery, a wave of deep, if bittersweet, relief. Ryan Miller visibly flinched, his defiant posture momentarily buckling, a flash of raw, unbridled fury crossing his features before he quickly reasserted a semblance of control. Eleanor, her body trembling with a potent cocktail of exhaustion and a fierce, visceral emotion, then rose to deliver her victim impact statement. Her voice, though raw with immeasurable pain, resonated with an unwavering power that commanded the entire room. She turned directly to Ryan Miller, her eyes burning into his unrepentant form. "Ryan Miller," she addressed him, her words like deliberate hammer blows. "You didn't merely take Sarah's life, you stole her future, her vibrant laughter, her boundless light. You attempted to bury her memory beneath the earth, but you will never, ever diminish the indelible mark she left on this world. Her voice gained a chilling absolute certainty. You must never again be permitted to walk this earth as a free person. Your act of malicious cruelty has condemned us to a lifetime of agonizing pain, but it has also unequivocally sealed your own wretched fate. Her statement, a mother's final devastating testament, underscored the profound and permanent cost of his monstrous crime, cementing his conviction with the enduring weight of her love and unyielding grief. In the somber aftermath of Ryan Miller's trial, Heavenwood tentatively began the arduous process of healing. Though justice had been served within the cold confines of the courtroom, the profound void left by Sarah Jenkins' absence remained an unyielding presence. Yet her memory swiftly became a powerful catalyst for positive change. A scholarship fund established in her name at Crestwood University now ensured that Sarah's academic promise and vibrant community spirit would continue to inspire future generations, a vibrant legacy defying her premature end. Eleanor Jenkins, forever scarred by the horrific tragedy, forged an unexpected new purpose from her grief. Her raw, guttural sorrow, though an eternal companion, began to transform into a quiet, unyielding strength. She emerged as a passionate advocate for victims' families, her voice lending resonant power to those who had lost theirs, meticulously weaving her personal suffering into a compelling force for support and awareness. She carried Sarah's light forward, not just for herself, but for countless others caught in similar nightmares. The metallic blue Mustang, initially the crucial key to unlocking the mystery, was eventually released from police custody. It returned home, a skeletal echo of its former glory, yet still radiating an undeniable melancholic presence. Eleanor had it carefully placed in her garage. There it sat, no longer a gleaming symbol of youthful independence and joy, but a poignant, silent monument to a life abruptly, brutally stolen. She found herself unable to drive it, the steering wheel a silent testament to the violence it had borne witness to. Yet she kept it a tangible connection, a bittersweet link to both her daughter and her late husband, a piece of their collective history frozen in time. Homecoming weekend, once a carefree annual ritual in Havenwood, now carried a profound, somber undertone. It remained a time for gathering and reflection, but it also served as an indelible reminder of the darkness that had once overshadowed its vibrant light. The case of Sarah Jenkins, a bright student whose life was so cruelly extinguished by a deceptive, resentful individual, became a deeply ingrained cautionary tale etched into the collective consciousness of Havenwood. Justice had indeed been delivered, yet the absence of Sarah's infectious laughter, the tapestry of unfulfilled dreams, and the life she would never experience continued to cast a long, enduring shadow, an indelible imprint that would forever echo in the very heart of the community. Justice may find the truth, but a stolen life's echo never truly fades. If the relentless pursuit of justice and the truths unveiled within these shadow files compel you, be sure to subscribe for more stories where every missing piece eventually finds its place. Don't forget to subscribe to Shadow Files and hit the notification bell.